And yeah, we argued and we fought, and I think that was very relatable. And I think that's what transcends age, gender, culture. That's why we have such a broad audience.
Yeah.
But in the end of it all, we built these beautiful motorcycles.
Paul Teutul Jr.'s life looked like a reality TV dream, but behind the fame was a tragedy few fans truly understood. At the height of American Chopper, everything he built began to unravel in ways that shocked even his closest supporters. Family conflict, public fallout, and personal loss collided under the spotlight. This is the heartbreaking story behind Paul Teutul Jr. that American Chopper never fully showed. Paul Teutul Jr. first exploded onto the public scene in 2002 as the creative force behind Orange County Choppers, OCC, on the reality TV series American Chopper. As the chief designer and fabricator, Paul Jr. became instantly recognizable for his bold, innovative motorcycle designs that pushed the limits of what custom choppers could look like. Fans were drawn not only to his artistic talent, but also to the fiery, often unpredictable interactions with his father, Paul Teutul Sr., which became a central feature of the show. The rapid fame came with an intense spotlight as cameras followed the family around the clock, capturing both the triumphs of bike reveals and the clashes behind the scenes. Creative disagreements, contrasting visions for OCC, and personality conflicts with his father were played out for millions of viewers weekly, turning private family tension into public spectacle. The pressure of performing under this scrutiny weighed heavily on Paul Jr., who was navigating the challenges of growing a brand, meeting demanding deadlines, and asserting his own voice within a business dominated by his father's larger-than-life persona. While the show solidified Paul Jr.'s reputation as a gifted designer, it also planted the seeds of long-term strain in their relationship. The intensity of fame, combined with the constant broadcast of conflict, meant that personal disagreements became inseparable from professional ones, forcing Paul Jr. to balance artistic ambition with the emotional weight of a family constantly under the public eye. By 2008, the simmering tensions between Paul Teutul Jr. and his father, Paul Teutul Sr., had reached a boiling point. The early camaraderie and shared vision that had fueled Orange County Choppers, OCC, during the rise of American Chopper gave way to increasingly public clashes, as creative differences, ego clashes, and mounting stress over the company's direction played out on national television. What had once been spirited debates about bike designs evolved into full-blown arguments that were no longer private, but broadcast to millions of viewers. The tipping point came in 2008 to 2009 during a highly charged workplace confrontation captured on camera for the show. The disagreement escalated beyond professional differences, spilling into personal attacks, and ultimately, Paul Sr. made the shocking decision to fire his own son despite Paul Jr.'s status as co-owner and chief designer of OCC. The termination stunned fans and industry insiders alike, transforming a popular family business into a public battleground. For Paul Jr., the split was devastating. It was more than reality TV spectacle. It marked a true rupture in a father-son relationship that had been entwined with the identity of the company itself. Suddenly, the designer who had crafted some of OCC's most iconic motorcycles found himself completely removed from the business he had helped grow and shape. The fallout left him grappling with both professional uncertainty and deep personal disappointment, forcing him to reconsider his role in the motorcycle world and how to assert independence from a family dynamic that had long defined him. Following his dramatic departure from Orange County Choppers, OCC, Paul Teutul Jr. faced an unexpected obstacle: a one-year non-compete clause that legally barred him from immediately launching his own design business. For someone whose identity and career had been built on innovation and constant creation, this restriction was a frustrating pause. The enforced downtime was more than a professional hurdle. It added emotional weight during a period already fraught with the fallout of a deeply personal and public split with his father, Paul Teutul Sr. The year became a test of patience, resilience, and long-term vision, as Paul Jr. sought ways to stay creatively engaged while unable to formally work in the industry that defined him. Despite the legal limbo, Paul Jr. spent this time refining his ideas, building a foundation for his next chapter, and envisioning a business that reflected his own aesthetic and values. In 2010, he officially launched Paul Jr. Designs, marking both a triumph and a poignant turning point. The company symbolized creative liberation, allowing him to design motorcycles without compromise and pursue projects on his own terms. Yet the milestone was bittersweet. It also highlighted the professional and personal separation from the family empire he had helped build. A reminder that success now came in the context of independence rather than collaboration with his father. Paul Jr.'s new venture combined ambition with reinvention. While the non-compete had temporarily stalled his public output, it ultimately provided a buffer to strategically plan his next steps. With Paul Jr. Designs, he reclaimed his voice, asserting his place in the motorcycle world not as a co-star of a reality show, but as a designer and entrepreneur fully in command of his creative destiny. A reinvention forged through challenge, patience, and unwavering dedication. Shortly after launching Paul Jr. Designs, Paul Teutul Jr. faced a shocking and tragic incident that shook the early days of his independent venture. A 26-year-old contractor, hired by the property owner of the new shop building, fell through the roof and died in a devastating accident. Though Paul Jr. had no personal connection to the man and was not on site when the incident occurred, the event cast a shadow over the nascent company and underscored the fragility of life in the midst of ambitious beginnings. Paul Jr. responded with immediate empathy, publicly expressing his condolences to the family and emphasizing his sorrow over the young man's untimely death. The tragedy was more than a news item. It became a sobering reminder of the unpredictability and risks that exist even in routine professional environments. For someone already navigating the enormous pressures of starting a new business after a very public fallout with his father, this incident added an emotional weight he could not have anticipated. The accident also highlighted the broader responsibilities of leadership. Even when not directly involved, Paul Jr. felt the impact of the loss, recognizing the human cost intertwined with business operations. It was a moment of reflection early in his journey where ambition met vulnerability and professional milestones were tempered by personal and communal sorrow. In fact, the fallout from Paul Teutul Jr.'s departure from Orange County Choppers, OCC, extended far beyond the television cameras. After Paul Jr. left the company he had helped build, Paul Teutul Sr. initiated legal action, seeking to force his son to sell back his 20% ownership stake in the business. What might have seemed like a straightforward corporate dispute quickly evolved into a tense, highly publicized civil court battle. The legal fight centered on the valuation of OCC, ownership rights, and the control of the company's future, issues complicated by the personal history and volatile relationship between father and son. For Paul Jr., the courtroom became a new arena of conflict, one that tested not only his legal strategy but also his emotional resilience. Having already endured the heartbreak of being removed from day-to-day operations, he now had to defend his financial stake and assert his rights under intense scrutiny. Each hearing, negotiation, and filing reinforced the depth of the family fracture, turning what was once a professional disagreement into a drawn-out personal struggle. Paul Jr. prevailed, retaining his 20% share in OCC. The victory, however, was bittersweet. While it safeguarded his financial interest and affirmed his role as co-owner, the ordeal reinforced the profound emotional cost of their split. The prolonged legal confrontation compounded the stress of starting Paul Jr. Designs, reminding him that creative independence came with enduring challenges, both legal and personal. This chapter solidified the reality that his professional path was now inseparable from the complexities of his family dynamics, shaping the next decade of his career and personal life in lasting ways. After the bitter legal battles and the dramatic split from Orange County Choppers, OCC, Paul Teutul Jr. and his father, Paul Teutul Sr., entered a prolonged period of silence that reportedly lasted around a decade. The estrangement was not merely a temporary cooling-off period, it represented a profound personal and professional fracture. Paul Jr. later described it publicly as a tough situation, a concise acknowledgement of the emotional weight carried by both men during those years. The decade-long rift was rooted in more than just disagreements over business. It was fueled by lingering resentment, hurt feelings, and the intense pressure that years of reality TV exposure had placed on their relationship. Every episode of American Chopper had turned private conflicts into public entertainment, making reconciliation even more complicated. The family tension that viewers had glimpsed on screen now manifested in real, sustained distance, with father and son navigating life separately while still carrying the invisible scars of their shared history. For Paul Jr., the separation meant confronting a dual challenge, maintaining his professional identity as a designer while managing the deep personal void created by the estrangement. The silence with his father underscored the cost of mixing family and business, revealing a human side to the fame and spectacle of American Chopper that viewers rarely saw. Despite the emotional strain, Paul Jr. continued to build Paul Jr. Designs, channeling his energy into creative independence while living with the reality that repairing the father-son bond would not be simple or immediate. This long period of distance defined much of his personal and professional life in the 2010s, illustrating the complex interplay between ambition, family loyalty, and personal resilience. As Paul Teutul Jr. worked to establish Paul Jr. Designs and carve out his independent career, he was simultaneously building a personal life removed from the intense scrutiny of American Chopper and the conflicts with his father, Paul Teutul Sr. On August 20, 2010, Paul Jr. married Rachel Beester, a milestone that marked both romantic commitment and a step toward stability after years of public drama and professional upheaval. The wedding was a celebration of love and a declaration of personal agency, but it also quietly underscored the distance between him and his father, who remained estranged and absent from this key moment in his life. In the following years, Paul Jr. continued to experience the joys of family life while expanding his business. The birth of their son in February 2015 added another layer of happiness and responsibility, reinforcing his role not only as a husband, but as a father navigating life on his own terms. These milestones were deeply fulfilling, offering a sense of grounding that contrasted with the volatility of his early career in the public eye. Yet, they also highlighted the personal cost of his prolonged estrangement, the absence of his father during celebrations that might traditionally have been shared with family. Despite the emotional complexity, Paul Jr. embraced these experiences as part of his journey of independence. The years between 2010 and 2015 reflected a dual narrative of professional perseverance and personal growth. While he continued to establish Paul Jr. Designs and push the boundaries of motorcycle artistry, he also nurtured his own family, creating meaningful memories and a support system outside of the OCC spotlight. These years illustrated the bittersweet reality of forging forward, achieving happiness and success while living with the tangible void left by a fractured father-son relationship. After nearly a decade of estrangement, Paul Teutul Jr. and his father, Paul Teutul Sr., took tentative steps toward reconciliation in 2018 with the reboot of American Chopper. The revival brought them back into the public eye, reuniting the iconic father-son duo on camera to design and build custom motorcycles. Fans who had followed their turbulent history were eager to see them collaborate again, but both men approached the project with caution. The years apart had softened some of the tension, yet the emotional scars from their past clashes remained, and neither wanted to risk reigniting the volatile dynamic that had defined much of their earlier work together. During filming, the two maintained a professional distance, sharing space and screen time but limiting direct collaboration. Paul Jr. focused on his own creative process, asserting independence while participating in team projects. Paul Sr., meanwhile, remained wary, openly acknowledging that their previous attempts at working together had contributed to long-term damage in their relationship. The reboot, therefore, became a careful balance, a chance to reconnect publicly, showcase their talents, and acknowledge shared history without compromising the boundaries they had established to protect their personal and professional well-being. In March 2020, the original Orange County Choppers, OCC, shop in New York, the iconic location where Paul Teutul Jr. first rose to fame, officially closed its doors. For fans of American Chopper, the building had been more than a workspace. It was a cultural landmark, a place where groundbreaking motorcycles were born and where the highly publicized clashes between father and son, Paul Sr. and Paul Jr., played out week after week. For Paul Jr., the closure carried an especially personal weight. It was the physical space where his creative identity had been shaped, where both his professional triumphs and his most painful family conflicts had unfolded. The shuttering of the shop represented more than a business decision. It symbolized the end of an era in both his career and his personal life. The walls that had witnessed heated arguments, emotional breakdowns, and high-stakes negotiations were now gone, leaving behind memories of a formative period defined by both ambition and tension. Paul Jr. publicly acknowledged the closure with a sense of reflection, noting that the original shop had been inseparable from the family drama and the intense reality TV spotlight that had catapulted him to worldwide recognition. At the same time, the closure offered a sense of emotional closure. It marked a turning point where the past, the days of constant conflict, camera crews, and creative pressure under his father's shadow, could be remembered but no longer dominate the present. For Paul Jr., it was both an ending and an opportunity. The final chapter of his OCC story, and a chance to continue building Paul Jr. designs without the constant reminder of the conflicts that had once defined him. Fans mourned the closure, but for Paul Jr., it was a moment to honor the history, learn from it, and move fully into his independent identity as a designer, entrepreneur, and father. Today, Paul Teutul Jr. has firmly established himself as the creative force behind Paul Jr. Designs, a venture that allows him to pursue motorcycle artistry on his own terms, free from the public drama that defined much of his early career. Beyond the shop, he prioritizes his family life, cherishing time with his wife Rachel and their son, balancing professional ambition with the quieter, more personal joys of fatherhood and home. His life today is far removed from the intense spotlight of American Chopper, yet the experiences of fame, family conflict, and public scrutiny remain an indelible part of his story. What do you think about Paul Teutul Jr.? Leave us your comments in the section below. We hope you have found this helpful video. Don't forget to leave a like, share, and subscribe to the channel if you like it. Thank you for watching this, and see you in the next videos. Goodbye.